South Africans woke up to a word that rattles nations: invasion, but President Cyril Ramaphosa responded with a calm, almost disarming line. We are very far from any invasions. In a world where borders are shaken by wars, coups, and foreign interference, that sentence lands like a cold splash of water. Fear travels faster than facts. Social media multiplies anxiety before leaders even finish speaking. Yet Ramaphosa's statement cuts through the noise with a steady signal: panic is louder than reality. The real story is not about tanks crossing borders, but about how nations protect stability in an age where rumors move faster than armies. So, what did Ramaphosa really mean when he said South Africa is far from any invasion? Today, we unpack the political tension behind the words, the regional risks people misunderstand, and the surprising truth about what actually threatens a nation more than foreign troops. The biggest revelation isn't about enemies outside the borders, it's about pressure building quietly inside them. Picture this for a moment. If you heard tonight that your country might face an invasion, what would worry you first? Soldiers, the economy, or social stability? Hold that thought. Because the way people answer that question explains why leaders speak carefully, markets react instantly, and citizens either stay calm or spiral into fear. The conversation around invasions is never just military. It's emotional, political, and deeply personal, and that's exactly why Ramaphosa's message matters more than it sounds. Ramaphosa's statement didn't come from nowhere. Across Africa and beyond, the word invasion has been echoing in global headlines: Ukraine, Gaza, coups in the Sahel, naval tensions in the Red Sea. When people hear these stories daily, they begin to project global chaos onto local politics. South Africans started asking uncomfortable questions: is the country safe? Are borders secure? Could instability spill over? Ramaphosa's calm response was designed to cool a psychological fire, not just address a military one. Sometimes leadership is less about force and more about emotional control. Another layer hides behind his words: diplomacy. South Africa sits in a complex geopolitical space. It's a BRICS member, a regional power in southern Africa, and a mediator voice on the global stage. When Ramaphosa says invasion is far away, he is also signaling to investors, allies, and neighbors that South Africa remains stable terrain. Markets listen carefully to presidents. One careless sentence can weaken a currency. One confident sentence can prevent economic panic. In modern politics, perception often weighs as much as reality. Then there's the regional picture. Southern Africa, compared to many parts of the world, remains relatively insulated from direct military confrontation. Neighbors are linked more by trade and migration than by hostility. South Africa's borders are not battle lines, they are economic lifelines. Trucks move food, minerals, fuel, and labor across them daily. An invasion would disrupt not only politics but survival systems. Ramaphosa's reassurance reminds people that cooperation, not conflict, defines the region's real rhythm. The fear of invasion also says something about the times we live in. Social media turns speculation into certainty within minutes. A rumor in the morning becomes breaking news by afternoon. In that environment, leaders must speak before panic hardens into belief. Ramaphosa's words weren't dramatic, they were deliberately ordinary. Ordinary language is powerful in crisis because it grounds people. When leaders shout, fear spreads. When leaders steady their tone, nations breathe again. But politics is never just security. It's also domestic pressure. South Africa faces economic inequality, unemployment, service delivery protests, and political competition. When citizens feel uncertain at home, they become more sensitive to threats from outside. Even distant conflicts feel close. Ramaphosa's message subtly redirects attention. The danger isn't armies at the border, it's unresolved tension inside communities. Sometimes leaders reassure the public not because war is near, but because stress already is. Another reason the invasion narrative surfaces is global alignment. South Africa's position in BRICS often attracts international scrutiny. Some interpret partnerships with Russia or China as geopolitical risk, others see it as strategic balance. When Ramaphosa speaks about being far from invasion, he is also rejecting the idea that South Africa is drifting into dangerous alliances that invite hostility. It's a reminder that diplomacy is about flexibility, not provocation. History also shapes perception. South Africa's past is rooted in struggle, resistance, and external pressure. People remember sanctions, isolation, and ideological conflict. Those memories make modern citizens alert to threats. Even without tanks, psychological invasion feels possible through cyber warfare, economic pressure, and political interference. Ramaphosa's calm framing challenges the old instinct to expect enemies everywhere. He reframes security as stability, not confrontation. Finally, there's symbolism. A president speaking about invasion is never just addressing soldiers and generals. He's speaking to shop owners, students, investors, and families. Every word touches confidence. When Ramaphosa says South Africa is far from invasion, he's protecting a national mood. Stability starts in the mind before it appears on the map. Beyond military meaning, the word invasion has evolved. Today, countries are more often invaded by economic shocks, cyber attacks, misinformation, and political manipulation than by physical troops. Ramaphosa's statement subtly reflects this reality. The real battlefield is invisible. It's fought in currencies, data, and public opinion. While people imagine soldiers, governments quietly defend networks, markets, and institutions. Modern invasion wears a digital uniform. South Africa's economy makes this even more relevant. As one of Africa's most industrialized nations, any perception of instability scares investors. When investors pull back, jobs disappear. When jobs disappear, social pressure rises. Ramaphosa's reassurance works like economic insulation. It tells global partners business continues, borders hold, systems function. Confidence is a form of national defense. There is also the question of migration. South Africa attracts people from across the continent seeking opportunity. Sometimes political rhetoric twists migration into the language of invasion. But people arriving for work are not armies, they are survival seekers. Ramaphosa's framing separates human movement from hostile movement. In a tense climate, that distinction keeps society from confusing economic stress with military threat. The military itself plays a quieter role than people expect. Defense forces today spend as much time on peacekeeping, disaster response, and regional cooperation as on combat training. South Africa's army is not positioned for confrontation, but for stability support. When Ramaphosa speaks about being far from invasion, he aligns public imagination with the actual posture of the state, preparedness without paranoia. Internationally, South Africa remains more valuable as a mediator than a battlefield. From global summits to African Union platforms, the country positions itself as a bridge between regions and ideologies. Invasions happen where diplomacy collapses. Ramaphosa's words imply the opposite, that conversation, not conflict, still defines South Africa's role. Another overlooked angle is energy and infrastructure. Modern invasions often target power grids, ports, and digital systems. South Africa's real vulnerabilities are not beaches and borders, but cables, pipelines, and servers. By calming public fear about physical invasion, leadership can focus attention where threats actually hide, inside complex systems people rarely see. Public trust also matters. When citizens distrust institutions, they interpret uncertainty as danger. Ramaphosa's calm delivery reinforces institutional continuity. It says government functions, security agencies operate, diplomacy holds. In unstable nations, silence creates fear. In stable ones, clarity protects confidence. Media influence plays its part too. Headlines thrive on drama. The word invasion draws clicks faster than stability. Ramaphosa's statement pushes back against sensationalism. It reminds the public that not every geopolitical ripple becomes a national wave. Perspective becomes protection. Ultimately, the conversation around invasion reveals more about psychology than geography. People fear collapse before they fear conflict. Ramaphosa's message stabilizes imagination before stabilizing borders. In a connected world, controlling narrative is as important as controlling territory. Looking forward, South Africa's safety will depend less on foreign armies and more on internal resilience. Economic reform, social cohesion, digital security, and diplomatic balance will shape the country's future more than tanks ever could. Ramaphosa's statement quietly shifts the national lens from panic to preparedness, from rumor to reason, from imagined enemies to real responsibilities. In many ways, saying we are far from invasion is not denial, it's direction. It points citizens away from fear-driven thinking and towards stability-driven planning. The real work of security is slow, technical, and invisible, and sometimes the strongest shield a nation has is not a weapon, but a leader steady enough to say, calm first, action second. Ramaphosa's words echo beyond politics. They touch psychology, economy, diplomacy, and identity. In a century where crises go viral before they go real, leadership is no longer just about defense, it's about narrative control. South Africa is not standing on the edge of invasion. It is standing in a world where fear travels faster than facts, and the quiet power of saying we are far from it may be the first line of defense no radar can detect.